Hey guys, I'm Cam with Simple Man's Barbecue. Today we're going to be making carne asada, homemade pico de gallo, and Mexican street corn with homemade tortillas.
A Simple Man's Barbecue.
First we're going to start out with the carne asada marinade. Right here we have about 3.5 pounds of skirt steak that the butcher will trim up for you. And some places even tenderize it for you. Okay, so this is what you have here. This is a pretty standard skirt steak. It does have a little bit of fat on it. So first things first, get a real big, hefty Ziploc bag. There is no specific order of adding your ingredients for the marinade, so I add a good amount of olive oil. Now soy sauce is pretty salty, so you want to make sure you don't add too much or add any other salty ingredients. Fresh ground pepper. If you don't have fresh ground, it's not the end of the world. Next, a dash of liquid smoke. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce. Next, we're going to use an orange. Now, when you cut an orange and want to extract the most juice as possible, you want to roll it. That breaks away the flesh of the orange from the rind. Now, if you don't have an orange, that's fine. You can use clementines, you can use orange juice. You just want that flavor. So go ahead and give it as good a squeeze as you can. And I always leave it in the bag. Next, you want to do the same things with a couple of limes. And again, if you don't have actual limes, that's not a big deal. You can use lime juice. I've used that many times and it's never an issue. Okay, then I add a little bit of ancho chili powder just to give it a little bit of spice, but you don't want to go too crazy. And lastly, garlic. I am lazy, so I use the pre-bought minced stuff. If you want to use fresh, more power to you. And I am a huge garlic fan, so I add a heaping spoon to it. Okay, once you get all your ingredients in the bag, you want to massage and disperse. Get all that goodness rolling around. When you're done, just to be sure, I take a quick sniff. Oh yeah. All right, and then you want to let that marinade 4 hours if you can. 8 hours would be great overnight, but I wouldn't go too much longer than 8 hours because then it starts to break down the meat and then it's not as good. Okay, so while our carne asada is marinating, probably about 3-4 hours, we decided to go ahead and whip up some homemade pico de gallo. Now this is a recipe that I got from a carpenter at work, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's easy to make, it's a little time consuming, but it's not difficult. And it's delicious. It goes with Mexican food or really anything. It can be served on its own. So you're gonna wanna get 4 tomatoes, 1 red onion, 1 bunch of cilantro, and 1 jalapeno. Depending on how spicy you like it, you can add more or less, and then you add a little garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper, let it sit for a minute, and it's a great side dish or for a taco topping. Okay, once you have all your ingredients cut up, it should look like this, the same ratio of tomatoes, red onions, and cilantro. And then the other ingredients we're gonna add is just a little bit of olive oil, healthy pinch of salt, some fresh pepper, healthy scoop of garlic, and the juice of a couple limes. If you don't have limes and you just have lime juice in the fridge, I've done it before, it turns out just as good. Don't worry about all that. Okay, and then lastly we have a jalapeno. Now depending on how spicy or not spicy you want it is how you should cut up your jalapeno. I like a little kick to it, so I leave the seeds in. If you don't like it as spicy, take the seeds out or don't even add a jalapeno at all. Okay, so that looks pretty good. You can eat it right away if you want. If you let it sit in the fridge for an hour, half hour, an hour, it really brings all the flavors together. They meld and it makes it a lot better. So we're gonna let this sit in the fridge while the skirt steak marinades. Okay, next we're gonna do our Mexican style street corn. First thing we're gonna do is soak our corn in the husk in water. it allows the water to go in and absorb into the husk, so when you grill it, it actually steams inside its own husk, and it's very good. Now we are gonna make our topping for the Mexican style street corn. All right, so first we're gonna take a dollop or two of sour cream, about the same amount of real mayonnaise. Don't use Miracle Whip, use mayo. You'll be much happier with the results. A little bit of salt, a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, a little bit of lime zest. You can use a cheese grater for this, but a lime zester, or a zester, makes life a whole lot easier. Okay, and then you want some lime juice and some of this seasoning. I think it's pronounced tahin, I don't know, it's what everybody uses for their street corn. Just a dash. Then we're gonna wanna mix that all up. We're also gonna use that seasoning on the corn once we pull it off the grill, just to kind of give it a base layer. Okay, the skirt steak has been marinating now for a couple hours. Our Pico De Gallo was made in the fridge. Our corn is soaking in the water, and I'm gonna go out and fire up the grill soon. When I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and start my homemade corn tortillas.
All right, our next step is gonna be making our homemade corn tortillas with this flour here. It's a very simple recipe, just the flour and add water. I've tried actually using these directions on the back and following the ratios, but it never seems to turn out right, so now I just kind of go by eye. You want a perfect doughy consistency. So now I'm gonna slowly add water and mix. This is something, as soon as you start mixing this, getting it to the consistency you want to cook it immediately, because it will dry out pretty fast. We're using parchment paper on both sides when we roll this out. I know some people have a tortilla press, but we're not that fancy here. I got my pan going on the stove at medium-high heat. You know, and there's a saying when you're making these, the more uneven they are, or not uniform, the better they'll taste. So don't drive yourself crazy getting them the perfect size and perfect circle.
Okay, so we're ready for the grill. Now first we're gonna take our corn, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna peel the husk back and get rid of this. They call it silk, because that'll just burn in the grill. So we're gonna gently peel it back, and try and get as much of this stuff off as you can. It's not crucial that every little piece is off, but do your best. What still remains will just get burned off. It's not that big of a deal. But you want to keep the husk on, because we're going to eventually re-wrap it. And we're going to fill our little dish up with olive oil. Now take a brush. Just kind of coat the corn as best you can. So we're going to take our street corn seasoning, just give it a nice coating. And then kind of peel the husk back onto the cob, because what that's going to do now that it's been soaked in water is it will help protect the cob and help steam it in its natural flavors, which makes it so delicious. Okay, as you can see, this is the Big Green Egg Large, and the nice thing about this is, unlike my associate John, whose grill is the size of a Volkswagen, it doesn't take that much charcoal to get up to high temps like this. So now we're sitting at 500 degrees. We're gonna take our corn and try to keep it as protected as you can and lay it on there, just like that. We're cooking at about 475 to 500. Now that's a little high for corn, so you need to be careful. The reason the grill is this hot is for the Carne Asada that's coming on later. Alrighty, so the corn's been on here for about 10 minutes. As you can see, most of the husk has charred away, which is fine. What you're looking for is just a little bit of char on the kernels, that way you know they're done. Okay, as you can see, we've got the grill at about 525, almost 550. Now this is a fast cook, and that's the one thing you gotta remember when you cook this. So we're gonna open it up. As you can see, I've added some lemons and as much citrus as you possibly can to this. Now we're gonna take the steaks, clean all that cilantro off, And we're gonna get it on here. You wanna lay it out as flat as you possibly can because you're just searing the edges. You do not wanna cook this all the way through. You wanna just sear the outside and leave the inside still delicious. If you like your steak well done, this may not be the dish for you, but if you're like the rest of us, you like a little bit of pink in the middle, and that's exactly what you want on this cook. So we're gonna let it stay over the coals and constantly see that little bit of burn right there. That's perfect. If I can get this piece. Yeah, you just want those sear marks on there. Okay, so that's pretty much what you're looking for, is just a nice char on the outside, and then take it and flip it over. And like I said before, lay it as flat as you can because you don't want it to bunch up on itself. You want it just to be right over the fire. Now, realistically looking back, I probably should have separated these so they're a little bit more manageable, but that's life, and you roll with the punches.
You need a bigger egg.
Or I could just go buy the Volkswagen egg. All right, so we've been on here for probably, I don't know, 3 minutes. As you can see, the juice is starting to pull up. And that is exactly what you're looking for. Just some of that, just on the ends, just charring up. And we're gonna pull that. How's this guy looking? Oh. See if you can get it to lay flat just like this. And as everybody knows, when you put meat on the grill, it's gonna shrink. And because this is such, you can almost see inside the middle and see kind of where you're at. And that is perfect, my friends. And also take note, as you can see the striation of the grains of meat running this way. When we do cut it, which we'll cover later, you want to cut perpendicular to the cuts. If you cut with the grain, it's going to be chewy. But if you cut across it, it takes all those sections of tendons and striations of meat and it puts them into short pieces, and that's where you get going from such a tough cut to just a delicious fall apart cut of beef. Okay, so we're back inside off the grill. We have our carne asada done and just resting. Now we're gonna take care of the corn. And I suggest bringing your garbage can close, peel away the husk till it's at the base, break it off. Nice and easy. All right, so we have our corn here, all done, and then we're gonna take our sour cream and mayonnaise mixture. Get yourself a nice brush, just paint it on. What brings it all together is this cotija cheese. Now we bought it pre-grated in a bag. I know you can buy it in a block and grate it yourself, and then you just wanna sprinkle it on there. Okay, so we have our skirt steak off the grill and it's been resting for about 5-10 minutes, and that is exactly what you want right there. That good sear on the outside, but you still want that medium to medium rare on the inside. And as you can see, the striations of the meat run this way, so you want to cut perpendicular to that. I guarantee you, if you show up with this to a party, you will be loved by all. Because the flavor of the beef with the marinade and the citrus with the garlic is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so we've got our meat cut up, our corn's done. With our homemade tortillas, we're gonna put it all together. And now the best part, the fruits of your labor. The combination of the homemade tortillas, the homemade Pico De Gallo, the marinated skirt steak, all brought together, it is fantastic. We'll try our corn. The sweetness of the sweet corn combined with the tartness of the cheese, the mayo, and that seasoning is absolutely delicious. This is a great summer meal that will impress all your friends. Thank you very much for watching.